All right, what's up, guys? I appreciate the five of you on this call today. It's Happy Tuesday, man. They say Tuesday is the most productive day of the week, so that's why I choose to do these things on Tuesday. Kind of get my mind right and connect with my fellow brothers and sisters here and in the Apex land, if you will. And like I was telling Brandon just a little bit ago, just again to quickly recap, the whole concept of me putting this together is kind of go through, and navigate the challenges, the obstacles that we face as solopreneurs. Some of us can be entrepreneurs even, and just going through that process of delegating out our tasks and creating more of a project management driven process so we can just work our way up to CEO, right? I think I call this thing like solo to CEO. A lot of you are solo operators, but you've got maybe some VAs and some teams and things like that. So this is not a thing. That's the beautiful thing about business in this day and age, right? You don't have to go hire 5,000 employees. You can, that can be your scale model, but it doesn't have to be. I know I'm doing things a little bit different on my end. I'm taking all this stuff that we're going to be talking about, and I started looking at different ways to scale my business, and artificial intelligence was a great opportunity for me. Doesn't mean it's available for everybody, obviously, but that's what this stuff's all about. So what I figured I would do is I'm going to introduce a concept to some of you today. Some of you have probably heard it, maybe you haven't, but I'm trying to look at this as we look towards the next few weeks out. How did I get started in all of this? So the first thing that I did in terms of delegating and things along those lines, and I'll bring up a new template. I'm looking on working on innovating this thing or leveling this thing up so it's a great fit for all of us, where I can kind of go on live and show this thing and show some others too. Maybe it's a thumbs up. Can y'all see my screen? It's just an Excel spreadsheet right now. Cool, Brandon, thank you, sir. So what we're talking about here is a RACI matrix, RACI. Have any of you heard of this thing before? Like maybe a show of hands or something like that. This does not have to be something overly complicated. You can see it's in Excel, which is pretty straightforward. This is a template that I can share with all of you. I shared this with Taylor not too long ago, but this will allow me to kind of go through what this process looks like and show you how easy this is to set up and kind of go from there. So when I was really starting out in that big ass word delegating, whether I'm going to hire somebody, I'm going to level someone up in my team, how do I best use the people on my team, virtual assistants, any of these things, I started out right here. I did my research on project management, and I think this is a pretty good starting point. RACI basically just stands for, these are your defining your roles and responsibilities within your tasks: responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Okay. Now, every business has a different makeup. I know my boy Brandon there's in the automotive industry, hooking up some badass rides, taking some shit like Stuman's Urus and doing some cool stuff to it, man. Not all of us have really cool jobs like Brandon, but in any way, you can take a look at who your roles are within your business. Whether you have your leadership team might look a little bit different from mine. Your project team could look a little bit different. It could be a technician in Brandon's case. In Chad's case, that could be maybe your marketing, initiative or anything like that. In Taylor or Haley's world, that could be maybe one of their, leaders within the project side of that, helping to, put deals together, structure deals together, whatever it is. Same with Michael on the LinkedIn strategy side of the house. I know he leverages VA assistants and things like that. So on my world over here, my leadership team is really just myself and my general manager. That's it. Okay. I try to keep it simple, stupid. I apply to that KISS methodology as much as possible. I've also put my client over here, which is kind of like the sponsor, right? So from a leadership perspective, if you've got a project, maybe Brandon's working on Stuman's Urus, and there's all these tasks associated with leveling up that automotive initiative, right? He's going to be your client. So he's a part of that leadership team, just like Brandon is, and maybe one or two other guys that are a part of that major leadership role. For me, it's myself and my GM. Then you take a look at your project team. Who's responsible for fulfilling these projects? Okay, your technicians, your analysts, whatever it is. I apologize. I'm not that well versed on the insurance side of the house, but Taylor and Haley are smart enough to kind of work with me on this. So in my land, I've got a project manager that leads the effort. I've got a technical lead underneath him that kind of helps, like his right-hand man, if you will. We've got a data analyst in the world here. I'm gonna let Eli in. Give me 1 second here, get him back admitted. I think he had some connection issues a little while ago. And then I've got an inspector for roadway inspections, and then my video capture team. Other resources, this could be, maybe you're working on a joint venture initiative, or maybe, you know, like for example, Michael and I, 2 different companies, but coming together as a venture to create Winning on LinkedIn. You know what I mean? So this could be maybe Brandon's got to go outsource some parts or some specific service that he doesn't handle. That could be in this type of area. Is this all making some sense? Perfect. Those are the roles. That's who we have available. Those are our resources. Then on the left-hand side over here, you can see we basically have stages of a project. You know, for me, I've got a kickoff meeting that takes place. That kickoff meeting is both with my client forward-facing as well as an internal client meeting. I've got an inventory process where I'm organizing all this different inventory for roadways and stuff like that. I've got a video capture phase, which I spelled incorrectly. Let's get that fixed. Boom, right? Where I've got a team that's out there driving roadways, you know, in America, capturing videos of roads. I've got a stage for the inspection process. And this is where I've kind of left off right now. I don't have all my tasks filled out yet. Where we're actually identifying all the different issues that happen with roadways. Then we basically package up what we call draft deliverables. It's like, hey, we think we're done. You guys take a look. It's a review, and it's a review process. Then we present those from a final deliverable perspective. We host a closeout meeting. We implement their software. You know, then we're going into more of that customer care role. That's still a part of your project. You know, customer support, reaching out to your customer. You know, hey Ryan, how's the Lambo doing? Everything working good over there? You know, in Chad's case, whether it's Chad or somebody else, reaching out to the customer. Hey, how's everything happening on that credit card processing side, especially as I know here in Ohio, things are opening up, right, Chad? Wide open, you know, bars and restaurants are coming back online. So you're starting to see more and more volumes being transacted every day, I'm assuming, you know. So a great touch point from the customer care services level. So that's about it. On the left-hand side, you're identifying maybe stages. I call them stages. What are the key elements to your projects? And then what are the tasks associated with each project? So I'll just run through a couple of these. So at the project kickoff stage, you know, we got to schedule the meeting, right? That's step one, is who the hell's responsible for scheduling the kickoff meeting with our client? And then what are we asking for? You know, when that client comes on that meeting, what's the preparation for that? What's the point of the meeting? That's the client item request for us. And then once that's taking place, our team can then set up our project directory. For us, it's files and things like that. We're going to actually host the client meeting. Then we're going to host a team meeting. So once we get off the call from a project kickoff perspective with our client, sorry about that, y'all. Speaking of clients, Apex is more important right now. Scheduled time. Anyway, by the way, that's a great thing to do. Just kind of throw this out there. We talk about protecting our time and our businesses and things like that. It took me a while to realize that I don't have to answer the phone. You know, I don't have to. What I'm doing right there, that's a client of mine. He's in a habit. He's been with me forever, by the way. And that's kind of what happens. They get used to seeing Brandon's face every day, Michael's face every day, Chad, Taylor, me. And as you build your team out, other people start to take care of stuff for you, right? Which we're going to find throughout this process. This is just me just hitting the no button and saying, hey, I'm going to end up having my GM is the one that's going to get back to that guy here in a little bit. Anyway, so you can see all the different tasks in here. So my presentation to all of you is for every major type of project. You know, Brandon, you probably got multiple categories in the automotive space of different types of projects you're working on. No two are probably the exact same. You know, you're probably not doing cookie cutter stuff. It's more custom shit, right? Chad, in your case, maybe a little bit different. You probably do have more of a regimented, here's what we do for most of these processes. In the insurance world, I can pretty much guarantee that's pretty straightforward as well. In my case, my projects might change a little bit. I may have a customer say, hey, can you give me a sign inventory? Or can you give me a curb condition assessment? You know, I just find where it fits in the stages. Does that make sense? Boom. Now, this is the easy part, especially with this template. Now that I've laid out all of my tasks and stages within my company or my projects, I know who the hell I have to work on it, who's available here. It could be, again, internal. Some assignments might be a part of your clients. Your project team is going to take the meat of all this for you if you do it right. And by the way, it can just be you and a project manager. It could just be a glorified terms, by the way. We don't have to get into the weeds on this stuff, man. You could be the CEO and, you know, your VA could be your project manager. It just depends on how your business is structured. And again, other sources could be maybe anything on the outside that you have to reach out to get maybe a part ordered or anything like that. So we just go through the process here and say, okay, who's responsible for scheduling the meeting? Responsible. Well, that's on my GM. He is responsible for scheduling that meeting. Okay. He's also, and this is where, you know, let me let Eli back in. He probably has some connection issues. I'll try to keep getting him in as I can. Excuse me. Who is accountable to that task, right? We talk about accountability. That's a big ass word we all use every day. Well, I'm the CEO of this damn company. So I'm accountable to making sure my GM is making sure these things are taken care of. Okay. That's the A. Now, consulted meaning, hey, we're just going to let you know that we're consulting you on this because you're a part of this project kickoff meeting. Well, that's my project manager. And then informed, you know, for the grand scheme of things, I'm not really sure I have an informed perspective here on this one. You don't necessarily have to have an R, an A, a C, and an I for everything. You know, in a lot of cases, you might be the A, the R, and the C, right? You might be an ARC. That's okay. Just go to the highest level of the RACI sheet. You know, just focus on responsibility, you know, and go from there, or accountability, one or the other. That's how I would say to do this. Okay. Then you just go down the line for each task. It really is that simple, that straightforward. So for client item requests, once we have this kickoff meeting, right, we introduce everybody on the call. The project manager is going to what? Lead the project. So he becomes responsible for asking for that bit of information. Okay. My GM is then holding him accountable to make that happen. I am just informed on this thing, just informed. I just need to see, this is where, you know, let's talk about communication in your businesses, whether you're using a Hangouts or a Slack or email. You know, there's a right and a wrong way to do all this stuff, by the way, but for these types of things, client item request, that is an email being sent to the client. That's as simple as putting James on the CC sheet, right? I'm just CC'd, I'm just informed. Is that making some sense? Informed. This is how you would do it from a communication perspective. And then we go on down the line, project directory setup, okay? My technical lead is responsible for that. And my project manager is going to hold them accountable, okay? Now my GM is just, he's actually going to be consulted on that one to make sure that's all kind of being carried out and taking place. And then so on and so forth. You basically just go down the line. The biggest component to this is taking the time necessary to identify all your tasks. And that's what you can do. You can just start with a running list, maybe lay out your most, I don't know, maybe the projects that you work on more often than not, and start with your tasks. Make a big old running list from start to finish. How do I do something? When I was the solo operator at this company, when I started and went all the way through the motions all by myself, what did that look like? That's what I'm laying out. And then you can break this out towards stages. Now, in my proposal, I mean, this is getting in the weeds a little bit, but in my proposal to the clients and my scope of work, guess what? They don't see all this stuff, right? There's maybe a paragraph of a narrative behind the scope of work, but they know that we're going to host a project kickoff meeting, and they know when it's done, they're getting an invoice. They know we're going to go through an inventory phase. There's a process behind it. And when we're done, they're getting an invoice. You know, now in your case, you may invoice at the very end of one entire project, and that's okay. This is just how we do it. So when you go through this process in here, and I should probably, and now that I'm bringing this up, I need to add my office manager, right? Because she is the one who's responsible for the invoicing. So when we invoice for the task, right, There you go. So you can just see how you can lay these types of things out. Host the team kickoff meeting. Well, that's actually going to be the project manager. He's going to deliver that on down to his team. And we're going to hold him accountable here. And then the technical lead needs to be consulted. And now, so does the data analyst. And then the team over here, they just need to be informed. Informed is being told what to do. You know, from right here, hey, you two, we have a meeting. It's on this date. Check your calendar. Be prepared. Just being informed. So that's how I look at a RACI sheet. That's how this helped me to get all of these tasks out of my head, down on paper, and then start taking a look at who I had in the company that was available to me as I was growing the business, who I was going to have responsible for what, and then defining the roles and responsibilities for each one of these individuals so they're prepared and they understand. Is this all making sense? I can promise you if you go through this exercise, it'll be eye-opening, number one. And number two, you will absolutely start to go straight into delegation mode without even thinking about it. So I'll wrap up on this part of it right now. And this is something that you all can just, we're on the calendar together. You can DM me. If this is something that you'd like to get started with, or maybe need a little bit of help with in your one-on-one business, I'm happy to do that. You know, on a one-on-one call, you know, you just reach out to me and say, hey, give me the RACI matrix sheet. And do you have an hour where we can kind of work through just a general concept of a project that you have? Because Michael's projects are going to be different than Chad's. Chad's going to be different from Haley's. Haley's will be different from Brandon's, right? It's all different. But at the end of the day, business is business. We all have projects. They all require roles to fulfill them. And there's a bunch of tasks that go along with them. This is how we organize. I'm actually gonna hit that save button because, as I said before, I'm going through this because I've gone through this iteration now for about 6 months. It's June. And I've noticed a couple areas where we're weak on. And I'm measuring that through project management, actual project management, which I'm going to jump into for a second. So now what you're going to see is once you lay this groundwork out, and this is what I'll talk about on the next week, you'll be able to see how you can carry this forward into a project management system of some sort. For us, we use Asana. You all know Mike Claudio. He introduced me to Asana. I had tried several other project management applications, and I was just kind of struggling with getting this all together. I had my RACI sheet, like I said, and I was still doing stuff in Microsoft and Excel. And he showed me this platform that he leverages, and I found it to be pretty intuitive, pretty straightforward, and pretty easy to navigate with little help. So what you can see through here without going through a whole Asana tutorial is, this is what? This is a project right here. The city of Powell, Ohio. You can see my boards. These should start to look familiar to you. Kickoff stage, inventory, video, inspection, my deliverables, you know, service and support. You're now starting to see that carried over into Asana. And guess what? Here are all the tasks associated with each one. Here are all my resources, the team, and I can assign the task to them, and I can actually track how we're doing. I'm going to spend more time on this next week. I'm going to go in this part of it a little bit more in depth, because this is how you can start measuring from your time and your metrics for your projects, but also developing your standard operating procedures for each task into one central location. So if James is not here tomorrow or next week, this is how we get freedom, folks. This is how you get freedom in your business. You know, I was just in Dallas for what, 4 or 5 days? You know, the team takes care of everything. You know, as long as I'm not on many of these tasks anymore. This was a project that was around March, and I was still hosting the client project kickoff meetings. I'm not even doing that anymore. You know, I just brought up a project to show you. What this allowed me to do is free up about, I'm not lying to all of you, it's pushing 80% of my time, because I was just stuck doing. I was just doing. And over the last couple of years, you know, getting to this process, it's been amazing, because now I can focus more time in my business, being that CEO role, or really working towards finalizing becoming that CEO at Paving Management Group. And I'll tell you, like some of the cool perks of that is business development. I got off of a call earlier today at 11 o'clock with a young man out of Saudi Arabia who's developed specialized sensors for measuring water, flooding, pavement temperature, congestion, just with one sensor. That can be a huge supplement to my pavement management business. You know, that's working on my business, bringing on partnerships, joint ventures versus being stuck in all the minutiae that you see here. In a lot of cases, it was hard to let go. I was responsible for a lot of these things. I didn't want to give up those responsibilities. And that's where your trainings, your SOPs, all those different things come into play. And that'll be another part of this too. My goal in the next call is to cover the project management Asana aspect. Then we'll talk about SOPs and how you can start teaching your team through training videos and those types of things. So I'll go ahead and shut up here for a minute and we'll do some little QA on the back end of this 30 minutes and kind of go from there. So I'll stop sharing my screen now and I'll just kind of throw it out there. Is there anything anyone else wants to talk about, whether it's on this subject or something else? Everybody good?
Can you show me the Asana? Maybe share that.
Sure. You want to take a look at that a little bit?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, I want to see what it's about.
Yeah, no problem. Maybe I'll just do a general overview of this type of application. So Asana has a free version that you can leverage very well. That's how we started. We started off at the free version to get things set up, get familiar, learn what's kind of going on with it. And then we turned the pro version on to take advantage of what this thing calls portfolios. Portfolios allows you to group projects together or take a look at specific metrics and see how you're doing. Project progress. We can see for this project, this is something that's current right now. It's due May 28th and it's what, June 8th, folks. So I've got 2 overdue tasks here that's overdue. And you want to know why? It's because this guy is on vacation. Simple as that. You only have so many people in your business. You only have so many resources. This happens. This is real life. But wouldn't you like to know that it's overdue versus just waiting until you think you're going to invoice somebody or you're expecting a payment or something like that? So we know he'll be back to work tomorrow. These couple of tasks that I know that are overdue, he'll knock out in a couple of days, get it back on track. But you can see where we're at in different stages. These are all current projects that we're just starting to work on. These are all brand new jobs, left to right. A couple other things, Mike, that I've done here, kind of give you an idea. I'll talk about this in a second here. So I created a project pipeline. You know, Brandon, this could be something that just as simple as this could be good for you. You know, you got, hey, here are the vehicles and the processes I got in the pipeline. This is your backlog. This is your leads, you know, taking your leads and turning them into projects. You know, in my world, we sign purchase orders. It might be different for all of you. Maybe it's a contract, maybe it's a handshake, whatever it is, right? That's what's upcoming. So I've got a backlog. I use a CRM to track all of that other crap. Okay. Leads and opportunities and deals. Okay. What this is for James and my team, which is Dylan right here. This is just saying, hey, what do we have in the backlog of an actual signed purchase order that we have to go execute, right? Here they are. What do we have in progress right now? And then what have we completed? For us, for being June 8th, this is actually a lot of projects. This is a big project. You know, for some of our businesses, we have small projects that take a day, a week, a month, right? Most of my projects are 90 days. So for the fact that we're clearing these projects out this way, it's actually going pretty well for us. But this is just a simple board I created called Project Pipeline to just get eyes on what's coming in, what's going on, and what have we completed this so far. You can absolutely create teams through here, which is what you would want to do. Remember, we talked about in the RACI sheet, accountable, responsible, things like that. What I did is I created basically 2 teams for my business. Production. A lot of stuff we do is production heavy. like Brandon's operation. It's production heavy. You're doing a lot of work, whether that's moving parts literally, or it's labor hours invested into a specific component. It's production. So who's a part of my production team? What projects are in that stage? All that good stuff. I've also got a sales. We look at this, it's just 3 dudes. Well, a year ago, it was just me. It was just me last year. So it's really cool to be able to just go all in through that process I just showed you. And now what are we doing? We can create, I just kind of added this. I've got my own metrics. I was showing Taylor this for my sales team, and I'm happy to open that up with you guys if you'd like to see it. But we can create sales boards over here if we want to. I'm just doing it in Excel to get familiar and comfortable with it so that I can bring it over into the project management world. That's it. Or my sales board world. I'll give you a quick insight as to what that looks like. A lot of you using Google Drive for your network, for your resources and your files and things like that. Some of you may be still using just the old hard drive. Okay. Feel free to reach out to me on any of those types of things as well. I'm not against or anti-college. I'm not the biggest fan of it. But if you look up here, I have a couple of degrees. One of them is information technology. So it kind of helped me to develop a structure to all my files, a file system I stream this to the desktop, by the way, so I don't have to carry around hard drives everywhere. It's very, very helpful for me, especially because we have a lot of labor intensive stuff. You all have worked with video before, I'm sure. We capture a video for every roadway section of every client. It's in the terabytes in terms of size, which is huge. I stream it to the desktop. That way I don't have to have some big old stack of servers running around in here humming and, making my office hot. But we have great people in the Apex world that can help on, little IT related things like setting up Google Drive and Google Workplace and stuff like that. But in any case, you can see I've got my shared drives here. This is kind of like Teams, but now I'm just in files. So who needs access to accounting stuff in the company? My production team doesn't. That's my office manager and my CFO and I, right? Client data, that's all production driven. And then you can see sales. So I created this metrics thing right through here. And I called it a scorecard and KPI tracker. So sales and project management are kind of different things, right? We're tracking different things in our businesses. And these are all things you can do as a team of one if you need to. This is something, again, Claudio helped me kind of put together and structure for my business. And it's something I'm happy to help you all out with as well. Up until last year, I was the guy. I did all the sales. I tracked it through my CRM. I had a pretty good overview cost. I had a good pulse on my business. But as your companies grow and you start scaling your companies, that gets tough. That information gets tough to come by readily and available and on hand. So you need to create a system behind what you're doing. So that's what we're doing right through here. This first spreadsheet is just KPI, key performance indicator. That's all it means. So what we decided to do is take a look at what activities do we need to do from a sales perspective to have success? At least what do we think? We didn't really know. We didn't know. For the last 9 years, James has just been operating. I'm just doing the work. Well, now we can measure it. So calling leads, messaging, our cold calls, this type of thing, this all falls under this one bucket. Requesting and receiving referrals and acting out against those referrals. For us, completing demos, that's something that some of you don't need to do. For us to sell a project or, the customer's going to want to see, well, what do you do? How do you do it? What's my expectation? When you complete a demo, we're going to try to get a proposal out against that demo, right? Hey, thanks for the demo. Can I send you a proposal to get you an idea on what this type of thing will look like for you? Then we can track the quantity of proposals sent, how many demos did we do, what were those proposal values. All of us in business have a different type of currency other than money, except maybe Chad. Chad's literally dealing with credit card processing all day, dollars and cents. For us, it's miles. How many centerline miles are we performing our service on each and every year? So miles becomes a currency for us. So I want to be able to track that. And then average cost per mile. The formula errors are because I have goose eggs in here. You can see that. So it's not tracking anything. So what is that average cost per mile that I'm getting for that type of proposal value that went out? This is really good right here for me. This is average. This sucks. But sometimes, just like in all of us in our business, we know when we can discount a product or service because of the experience that we're going to have or the relationship that we already have, things like that. We already know that. The bottom line is we track all this each and every week, and then we can see what's happening each and every quarter. When you go to the totals page over here, it just sums up the entire month for us in terms of activity. So you can see January sucked. Now, this is just, this is Dominic's scorecard. This is one salesperson's, not the whole company. Does that make sense? Each salesperson has a scorecard, and then we can combine all that together on a separate spreadsheet at the end of the year to see how it all came together. But, you know, this individual is supposed to be taking care of X amount of leads each week. Referrals, demos, you get the idea. So now we can really see if they're doing the work. So when you start delegating in your business, this is how you start tracking that. You know, if Brandon's on my sales team, he's like, James, I apologize, man, but you know, February is just sucking. I don't know why. I don't know why it sucks. We're not getting any business. I'm not doing any demos. I haven't put any proposals out. I can come right in here and say, well, you know, and this isn't the case, but I can say, well, it's because you didn't do anything, dude. You called 5 people. You called 5 people. You know, calling 5 people is not going to yield a result for us in our business. We've talked about this. So he has his roles and responsibilities. The point is, you know, you can set up goals. That's what this is. How many leads or cold calls do I want this individual to make by the end of the year? I put 200. We've already exceeded that because we got on a call with Mike and learned from the experience back in, I want to say it was March, maybe April. And we had a couple months of measurement, right? You measure. I just didn't change the goal because I want to be able to come back to this and say, well, this is how I set it up day 1 for the year. Now I know for 2022, that goal will climb to probably 1,000, not 200, but you get the idea, hopefully. But we can see our goals. We can see how the totals are coming in. We can see Dominic has pushed out 625K of proposal values. His goal is 2 million. Okay. He's about 1.4 million off his goal. Okay. So we're about halfway through the year. This is true. But in terms of Dominic, he didn't really start this initiative. Really, you can see where all the work started coming in. He really started the initiative in March. So even though we're tracking this, because I have the metrics, I have the knowledge base in the background, I know that this really only equals about 3 months of actual work.
Hey, James,
Yes.
are we supposed to be seeing numbers, or is it still just on your sales page?
It's on my sales page. Tell me what you do see, Haley.
I just see your sales and your overview and then the description and your team members. I didn't know if you were trying to show us to reference a certain thing, but that's all that I see.
Yeah, let me try this again. You know, sometimes I get out there and let me try this again. Is this different?
Yes.
Ah, thank you. See, this is what I do. I get out here, I just get talking and trying to deliver value. And okay.
I think that you were just sharing, like when you hit share screen, you just hit
Yep.
that page instead of your entire.
I think you're right.
So it didn't flip when you were talking.
All right, perfect. Well, I won't recap wholly, but I'll just kind of show you the KPI dashboard. Now you see it. Here's each week laid out. Here are those columns, those groupings of, you know, and again, my concept was what activities from a sales perspective do I need to do here that I can measure to achieve a result? And that result for me is all the way down the line. It's a pipeline, right? You got to do the damn work. We got to call people. We got to message people. We have to push content out. We have to become the attractive character. all of those activities turn into, oh man, now I'm booking a demo. They like the demo? Cool, here's your proposal. You know, what was the value of that proposal? And again, talking about currency for my business, it's miles. You can see that column right there. And I can track the cost per mile. But for me, what it really boils down to is, well, how many purchase orders did I receive? And what was the value of the purchase order that week? Because this is real life. Anything up until this point, until Brandon's saying, hey, James, the city of Brandon says we're going to give you $100,000 for your project in writing. It's not that it's irrelevant, it's all activity. So the goal for Pavement Management Group is to have a scorecard like this for every sales individual as we ramp this thing up, so we can track them. And remember, we talked about RACI. That's how this whole thing started. Responsible, accountable, consulted, all those things. I'm accountable for my sales team's activities. So this is how I can hold them accountable. They have their goals each and every week. They have their goals each and every day, all of those things. This allows me to come in here and have a pulse and say, you're doing the work. Chad, thanks, man. You went above and beyond. You called 50 extra people this week. Or I want to spotlight Michael this week, man, because he closed an extra 100K in purchase orders. I've got all the activity to show me that, okay? From the totals perspective, that's where I was bringing everything together just based each month. And as I was mentioning, where I ended, and Haley so kindly kind of showed me, hey, no one sees this. You know, we can see where Dominic is right now. His goal was to push out $2 million of proposal value, and he's sitting on 625K. And that represents really about 3 to 4 months of work, and his efforts are ramping up. I mean, May was a little bit of a slow month. I don't know about the rest of you. I think we're all probably in the same boat. A lot of our businesses, we have buying cycles or seasons, selling seasons, busy seasons. It's no different for us in the government world. What's happening for PMG is when you look at April through September, our government client, all their budget is already allocated for shit. It just is. So we don't get a lot of actual sales activity that happens in here. It's all in the first part and the back part through here. But what happens is, as we creep into these June, July, and Augusts, all of that activity from January, February, March, for all those folks that had to hit the pause button, they take a look on their budget and say, hey, we have some money opening up. Let's do a project. We got some money opening up in the budget. Let's do the project. You know, so that's how our cycles work and everything like that. But I just wanted to kind of show you these things because it's these types of metrics where imagine being me in December, right after Christmas, looking at an entire year of activity that I've never had before. Now I'm gonna be able to go right, whatever the numbers are the numbers. I'm not overly concerned with that. If Dominic hits $2 million, I'm actually gonna really pat him on the back and take him out, right? Because this is just, I don't know, this is just a goal. You know, here's the total. He's working towards it every day. So I'm gonna be able to say, hey, you know what? It took 1,000 phone calls in 2021 to produce $2 million of revenue for Dominic. Make sense? It took 80 demos. We had to do 80 demos to close 2 million in revenue for Dominic. Or we had to send out 80 proposals, whatever the numbers are. Then you can do a little bit of quick math. We call it entrepreneur math, right? What's the percentage on that? What's my close rate? James, what's your close rate? I don't know. I think it's 60%. Well, how are you measuring that? Gut feel. I've done this 10 years. Someone wanting to buy my company is going to say, that's not going to cut it, man. You know, you want to buy out Pavement Management Group? I want to sell it for $5 million. This is the stuff that's required so that that individual comes in and takes a look at the company, you know, assuming that your numbers are good and all of those types of things, but they want to see the systems and processes in place to drive revenues. Simple as that. This is just another one of those tools. And then, Michael, I promise, going back to Asana, once we start seeing how this works, I'm an Excel guy. I'm a data guy. Remember, information technology, right? Databases. I get that none of us are, not all of us are like that, but I can then take this information and I will do another share to make sure I'm doing this correctly. And that'll allow me to come into Asana and create that opportunity through the boards, okay? So Asana is a project management tool. When we think of project management, don't get too much into the weeds about this. I want to show you some other things that you can do with it. We talked about earlier on the call. We talked about, like Taylor does it. I know she's not on the call right now. She does a great job of really putting out content. I see her content a lot. So what I started doing is I call this the Golden Collective. Some of you are in the Golden Collective. Thank you for being there. And others are maybe going to learn what this is, but from the Golden Collective perspective, I can start building my boards, like what do I need to do this week for the Golden Collective? I can have a pool of tasks, right? And the value of this is I can assign a deadline to them. Here's my due dates. If I bring Haley into the Golden Collective running more of that type of effort, guess what? She'll be a resource in here. Maybe my job is to schedule 3 posts this week, or her, it doesn't matter. You get the idea. You can start doing all of that in here. So what I found that's really good here is a simple, what's my to-do list for a specific project? What's in progress? And am I getting that complete? You can start moving things over. We're going to talk about Asana a little bit more in depth next week, Mike, I promise. I'm also going to start talking about, hold on one second, let me decline this call as well. I'm also going to start talking about scheduling your time throughout here. We talked about that as well in our first call. So initially my concept was to throw together a 4-week kind of a training on systems, delegation, and processes. We kicked that off last week. We're getting a little bit more into what works from a processes perspective this week. We'll look into some systems, time blocking, and scheduling over the next couple of weeks to kind of wrap that initiative up. And then we can just go from there. We can always keep this thing running every Tuesday at 12:30 if that works for folks, or, whatever. If you guys get value out of this, let me know. And maybe push that out to the Apex community and just say, hey, here's some stuff that I'm learning. Or if you have anything additional to add, absolutely, man, bring it my way, because we're all high level performers in here. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to show some things that have worked for me and how, I call it the Apex way, and how maybe my personal business coach has helped me along the way as well. So we'll wrap all that up. I'll have all my time blocks scheduled in by next week's call. So we'll talk about those 2 things. Anything else?
Good.
What's
this
that?
Is really good.
Okay, perfect. Glad to hear. Brandon, we doing pretty good?
It's been awesome. Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Very cool. All right. Well, I know we're right about the hour. If you guys have any other questions, throw them at me, or anything else you want to see or talk about, throw them in the DM on this thread that we have going or whatever. And we'll try to get some more stuff out there. I'll go ahead and wrap up the recording, and I'll throw it up on my YouTube page, and then I'll get that into the Apex community, and maybe y'all can just kind of help with that engagement a little bit, like we help each other out with the post. Hey, we're talking about systems and processes, whatever. So y'all need anything else from me?
Thanks for doing this, James.
My pleasure, Haley. Thanks for jumping on here. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Good stuff.
And if anybody,
Yeah,
feel free to jump over there to the comment section real quick, the chat, and grab that link, man, and maybe just help Mike and I kind of get that effort out too.
Yeah,
Because,
whatever you guys can do to blast that out. We got 95. I set a goal of 1,000 people. Like, we want to go big. We're at 95 right now. I got a week
95.
left. So we need like a full court press. Boom. RACI, Apex, everybody, LinkedIn. Let's go.
It's a link that you can share with anybody. If anyone has ever said to you, like, man, I'm struggling on LinkedIn, here's a link.
Yeah.
We're going to cover all that for everybody. So, and again, it's free. Like, we're just doing this to add value to all these communities. That's it. Yes, there'll probably be some type of a course that he and I come up with on the back end of this to really dive into one-on-one shit with people, obviously. But he and I have learned a lot on LinkedIn over the last couple of years. And we realized, he and I connected, realized, man, a lot of people aren't talking about this. So this is a great way for us to kind of get forward face and get that out there, man. So cool. Appreciate you all. Have a great Tuesday. I'll see you online, and I'll see you same time next week.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Bye.